So is the delay the superintendent's not sending back signed forms, or is it the fact that the State Board of Education meets only occasionally and they have to approve these before they go out?
So I don't think you can attribute, I wouldn't call it a delay, number one, and I don't think you can really contribute that delay to any one thing. It's a brand new process that we had to start beginning when we found out the state budget was approved in July or late June, and get that process moving. I think the other thing that's important to note is these were competitive grants. We had to allow districts time. We had to first develop that application. We had to allow LEAs time to complete that application. There had to be time in there for the CDE, and in fact, both the state board staff and Department of Finance staff helped score applications in this process. So it was a very collaborative effort between the three agencies, and so we had to have time actually to score those applications as well. And I think one thing I'd like to point out about that time period is also the legislation provided an opportunity for LEAs to form consortias with other LEAs in order to do this work. And there was time necessary for LEAs to meet among each other and do that planning and decide whether they were going to shake hands and actually form a consortia. And as was noted, there were 72 regional consortias formed just for this effort. And in those 72 consortias, there's 303 individual LEAs receiving funds.
So you're saying then that things are just fine in terms of the timing, and there's no need for this department to do anything differently to speed things up in the future?
We are looking at speeding things up in the future.
So things aren't just fine then?
Well, what I'm saying is I think things are fine considering the processes that need to be done in year one of the grant. In year two of the grant, the application is already completed. We know what the application will be like.
So what kind of things might be done to speed things up next year?
Well, one thing is LEAs won't have to form consortias. They're already formed, so that does save some time. So we're able to now, and we're not having time to create an application. That is relieved. So next year we're looking at a lot earlier in the year. We do have to collect a progress report from LEAs because of the requirements within the legislation about meeting these quality criteria. So we do have to make a determination for continued funding. There will not be an application per se for those that are receiving funds now in order to continue to receive funding, but there will be a progress report so we can ascertain whether or not they're meeting the criteria that's laid out in legislation, and those that will continue to receive the funds.
Okay, Ms. Brown, did you want to comment?
The only thing I would add again is that there's lots of things that in the first year don't have to be done in the second year, and so we are looking at ways where we can, if we can streamline it, we can. But one of the big things being that the application is already created. And the other thing I would note is that in an effort really to try to speed it up where applicants were ready, that's why we had the two processes where we did provide a list to the board in January and then a bigger list in March. So that allowed for those that the applications were, the consortia were formed, applications were ready and approved, we could do those as quickly as possible rather than compiling them in March. So there really was an effort to try to speed that up as much as we could.
Yeah, thank you both. Vice Chair Morlock.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Weichel, just to refresh my memory, is this just a 3-year grant?
Yes, the funds are limited to 3 years. First year, $400 million. Next year, $300 million, and the last year is $200 million.
So that might be an impediment too from people wanting to get moving. If you know it's just a short-term deal, why even participate? Is there a chance of getting it renewed after the 3rd year?
I don't think that's a question I can answer.
Oh, I thought we had a panel of experts. I apologize.
Well, no. It's not my decision, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, you'd kind of like to know, before you make hiring decisions and space decisions and
Maybe
all the rest.
Finance or Ms. Brown want to comment on
I can
that?
take a shot from the administration's perspective. LCFF is where we want to end up when we talk about CTE programs being supported by school districts. This program was sort of created from a recognition that we're sort of in the early years of transitioning folks to their targets. And so as sort of bridge funding, we created this program. That said, we wanted to make sure that we were only supporting programs that were going to be sustainable long term. And so we've done that in a number of ways. The matching requirement that slowly ratchets up is one way that we're signaling that. Sticking to a 3-year program is another way. And then there are some baseline conditions that participants are opting in for. They have to show how they're going to maintain their programs for at least 3 years after this grant expires. And there's also a requirement that to get a second sort of bite at the apple, and so to get a slice from this $300 million that's going to be available in 16-17, that you speak to the goals of this program and the services provided in your LCAP. And so sustainability is certainly a priority for us, but it's also a priority for us to transition to local school districts taking a discretionary dollar under the LCFF and being willing to invest in high-quality CTE.
And this is all under Prop 98?
These are all Proposition 98 funds, yes.
Okay. Okay, but I can kind of see, Mr. Chair, this is a big commitment, so I can see why there might be a little slowness. You know, there's a lot of big decisions to be made here. Thank you.
Senator Allen.
Well, I mean, I wonder if we're getting confused about things. I mean, it was the legislature pushed for a big increase in CTE grant money. The governor pushed back a little bit, but we worked out this schedule. So ultimately, it's really up to us. And I think, you know, the kind of key issue underlying your concern, Senator Morlock, is absolutely right, and that's why we need to fight to get this money back up to a more consistent level that we can maintain over time and that can actually provide some predictability. It's a classic example of kind of, you know, haphazard, slipshod budgeting that we all seem to do around here that leads to really difficult decision-making processes on the ground level. I'm glad we got the money out because there's going to be some good things happening as a result, but, you know, going from 400 down to 200 with no predictability as to whether the money's going to be there later certainly doesn't lead to the kind of thoughtful long-term planning that we know that we want our LEAs to be doing on the ground to help fund these core CT programs that we know are also valuable, that we used to fund very predictably under the ROP categorical. So I very much agree with the spirit of both my colleagues' frustration, both in terms of the speed with which the money's been getting out. I understand it's a new program, but also the second point that I think is the heart of Senator Morlock's concerns, which ultimately is our responsibility, both as legislators working with the governor to create a more sustained funding source that's predictable, that can help to address what we all know is such a critical need in our educational system. So I share the frustration that's been expressed today.
Thank you, Senator Allen. Any further questions for this panel? We still have public comment coming up.
Yes, please, because now we've got a dialogue going. And so I think we're all in agreement that the CTE is like a really good thing to do. So how do we encourage the administration to rethink this, what I would call seed money approach that you're weaning down? It all makes sense. But how do we encourage districts to feel a little more comfortable?
So I think from our perspective, the conversation to have is at the local level, and to have school districts realize how valuable these sorts of programs are for what we are ultimately going to be focusing on through our evolving accountability structure, which is student outcomes. And so we all believe in these programs because we've heard and research supports that these programs are effective at creating positive outcomes, and not only for students that are excelling, but for those that are at risk of dropping out. And so we don't need to be convinced of that. It's that we have to be sure that we're also at the same time providing local control to be able to have each district decide whether or not to provide CTE, and then what that CTE should look like, because it doesn't look the same depending on where you are up and down the state for a variety of reasons. And so the other thing that I would add is that we completely agree that there should be predictability, and that's why we've tried to be as clear as possible from from when we first came out with this proposal, that it would only be 3 years.
So why?
Okay,
why-
Well,
wait.
no, I have the floor.
Senator Morlock has the floor, Senator Allen. Please go through the chair.
Please. In the list on page 21, I don't see culinary services or food services, and that's such a major market area. I'm wondering, is it a subcategory of one of these?
Yes, Senator, these are our 15 industry sectors, and in these 15 industry sectors, we have over 78 different pathways, one of which is culinary arts.
Okay.
So if we looked at hospitality, tourism, and
Okay, there you go.
recreation.
Okay. Thank you. I am a firm believer that everyone has a natural talent. And we get frustrated because mom and dad want us to become a doctor or a lawyer. And so we do because it's a good economic course and it's a good standing in the community, but we get burned out because it's not what we really want to do. So I think there's, if we can find a young person's natural talents in, say, their high school years, we're really just giving them such a edge. And so is there like a test? Do we do any testing to kind of see where the natural talents might be leaning so that we can assist a young person? And
That's really a local decision. There's not a state test necessarily that does that, but certainly many locals use interest inventory tests.
Okay.
To find out their students' interest. The department also funds what we call CalCERN, which is a career resource network. Career resource network is basically an online career counseling system where students can get in and do some of those interest inventories online. That's provided free through some of the grant opportunities that we do at the department. There's also on that system what they call the California Real Game. And what that does is help students plan backwards. It starts at, and by doing that, I mean, it starts, it says, when you're an adult, what kind of lifestyle do you want to live?
Yeah.
And it gives the students many, many choices. And when they describe their lifestyle, that says, then the software allows or demonstrates to the student, if you want that kind of a lifestyle, you'll have to earn this much money, and these are the jobs that offer those kinds of opportunities for you, and this is the education associated with going into those professions.
but that doesn't-
So a very robust system.
that doesn't tell you your natural talents. It just,
No, it does not.
just,
But the interest inventory that's available on that system and the other interest inventories that schools are doing do provide some of that for students. Mhm.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Senator Morlock. Senator Allen. Okay, it looks like we have no further questions for this panel. I'd like to thank and excuse you. For public comment, I'd like to invite Assemblywoman Lopez to come forward and fill the first chair on my left. And then anyone else with comments, please join us at the table and make a line behind the table. Four chairs at the table, please. Now, the rules for public comment in this committee are always the same. You have as much time as you want, up to 1 minute. Now, when 1 minute is over, we'll cut you off, but you can supply the committee with as much you want in writing as possible. If you want to give us pages and pages, you can give it to the sergeant today to distribute, or you can send it to the committee later this week if you wish to. We'll take as much information as you want to give us, but only 1 minute. So what you're doing in the 1 minute is basically headlines, and then support that with additional written information if you wish. We'll go across the table. We'll start with Assemblywoman Lopez, go across the table and back to the left to the right.
And Mr. Chair, if I may, I just wanted to say I'm going to stay as long as I absolutely can, but then I have to get on a plane to a funeral, so I just wanted to let people know.
Thank you, Senator.
For colleagues in the assembly, do we only give 1 minute?
Yes,
Can we overrule the chair
Ms.
and give her 2?
you can ask for a vote to override the chair, certainly.
Oh, you want to vote?
If you
Oh,
want.
Wow, baby. I won't do that to you.
Okay. In that case, as the chair stated, the rules are the rules, and you'll begin, Ms. Lopez.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, Chair and members. First, I want to thank you, the Senator Block, for allowing me to present during the hearing today. Before I became a member for the Assembly, I used to come to the state capitol for adult education, a student, and advocate for education funding. Today, I came similar reason to highlight the need of funding. Due to the lack of funding, 65 of the adult schools, California, were forced to close between the 2008 and 2013. We led many students without access to ESL classes, citizenship classes. Now that California is back to on track, and we should make priority to restore adult education funding to bring back much needed resource to our communities. I would like to urge in this committee to strongly consider it to fully restore adult education back to $750 million. And I'm one of the students that will benefit from this program, and that's what I'm here to bless you to do whatever you need to do. And you hear previously, it's nothing in place. And I just have with me some of the letters that I received in my district, and later on, the governor is gonna get it. I didn't print all, but we starting that campaign to make sure that adult education is full funded. Thank you so much, and I'm gonna excuse myself. Also, I had to catch a flight.
Thank you, Simone. We
Thank you so
appreciate
much.
your being here. Move on to the next speaker.
My name is Matthew Kogan. I'm the Director for Adult Education for United Teachers Los Angeles and a constituent of Senator Allen's. I heard about some of the other consortiums working well together and having dialogue in Los Angeles. That is not happening. We probably lost years of funding because community colleges wouldn't sign on to the funding. They're not meeting to work on programs. So I encourage this body to discuss where it needs improvement. I strongly support the Adult Ed Block Grant. It's a great best practices and will greatly benefit students. So I hope you hold people's feet to the fire. But I came here today to talk about the need for funding for adult education. Although over 5 million Californians don't have a high school diploma and over 6 million don't speak English fluently, which limits their prospects for good jobs for a lifetime, lowers the revenue they pay to the state for a lifetime. Instead of dealing with that, we've actually cut adult education. It's actually at only 2/3 of what it was before the recession. It also undercuts California's competitiveness. Aren't we only as competitive as our people, as the skills and training our people have? So please consider refunding it. And finally, I'd like to talk about the perpetuation.
Actually, your time is up, but thank you for your comments. Move to the next speaker.
Senators Fred Jones on behalf of the California Business Education Association. I'm here to speak about the CTE incentive grant. We love the administration's program. We love it so much we want it to continue indefinitely until the 7,000-page, 11-volume ed code is changed to actually value career technical education. Until that happens, money's just one of the drivers. There's a whole lot of other drivers that have been undermining these programs for 30+ years. So until those are addressed by you all, please do not cut the money, because the programs that survive are what you require, fund, and measure. We're not required for graduation. We are not measured. All we have is the money. $971 million were applied for a $400 million grant. Is that going to go down to 300 next year, 200 the year after, and then nothing? What's going to happen to these programs? You're investing in them now. You're going to turn them away in 3 years. We love the governor's program, and therefore we want you all to embrace it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, I'm Kathy Jasper. I'm the president of the San Jose Federation of Teachers. I'm an ESL teacher at Silicon Valley Adult Education, and I'm a member of our South Bay Consortium for Adult Education. I'm here to ask you to please help get all the students off the waiting list. We have huge waiting lists in the San Jose area. In my particular district, we had 24 different sites a few years ago. Now we have one big site. Since the $500 million came, we've opened up 3 more sites, but the concern is we're not getting the access. Students aren't getting the access they need. We're not spreading into our community. We're not filling the gaps as fast as we should. So therefore, I'm asking you to support Senator Lopez's, Assemblyperson Lopez's bill to add an additional $250 million to funding for adult education. That's 1846.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much. Next speaker, please.
Nicole Rice, California Manufacturers and Technology Association. I would like to associate myself with the comments made by two speakers ago regarding the Career Tech Education Incentive Grant Program. We agree. We're very happy with where this conversation is. A year or two ago, we weren't here. So we are extremely happy that we're here with support from members like yourself and others, including the administration, for funding CTE. But we also agree that the prioritization that we all want to give CTE is being competed against with other things that are required and that are measured in our K through 12 system. So it's important, and we urge the legislature and your committee to recommend actually sustaining those funds at the $400 million level for next year, especially since, as your analysis points out, those funds have not gone out the door yet. They've been delayed. And so programs, as they're trying to ramp up and make sure they have everything that they need, to have that dip down $100 million again next year would be devastating to those programs.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Hi, my name is Mel Martin, and I teach ESL in Berkeley education. And I come to you with a little bit of different perspective. I first want to associate myself with Assemblyperson Lopez's plea for additional funding. But the perspective I have is that I have some information I'm going to share with you. I find that if I give it out before time, people are looking at it and not listening to me. So, but I'm going to do, and it talks about the nuts and bolts of what those of us do in the Northern Alameda County Consortium grant, which includes Berkeley and Oakland, and I teach in Berkeley. We have gotten along very well. We are developing a lot of coordination between the groups. We're building now, for example, kind of a directory that would include all the schools in Northern Alameda County and all the programs that they're offering. We've started working with our community colleges, Laney College and Berkeley City College, where we go to their school, they come to our school. We find out what's the best pathway for our program to feed into their program. So a lot of great things that we've been doing. We value that. We have a culinary class.
Thank you. It sounds like you're doing a lot of good things, and if you have the information, if you can give them to the gentleman over there, the sergeant, he'll get it to us. Look forward to reading it. Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Jeremy Smith here on behalf of the State Building and Construction Trades Council. I'd like to associate myself with the comments of Nicole Rice from the Manufacturers Association and the gentleman who sat in this seat before me, Fred Jones. We're all members of the Get Real Coalition. We were advocates for the plan in place now for CTE that we just had a discussion about. $971 million in asks for $400 million. Clearly, there's a need there. If you don't require it, fund it and measure it. School districts aren't going to do it. CTE is not in the education code, in the A through G mandates. They need this money to continue the programs they're beginning with the seed money that we gave them this year. We want to make sure the amount stays at $400 million going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, Elizabeth McGee on behalf of the California Association of School Business Officials. CASBO appreciates the administration's commitment to providing $300 million in state matching resources for CTE. We believe it's a program that provides students a pathway to post-secondary education and careers. We want to thank Senator Allen before he leaves for his commitment on sustainability for these funds. We think it's critical for the state to continue recognizing the benefits of these programs beyond the access of one-time funding so that schools and county offices of education are able to develop long-term and sustainable programs to help our students secure 21st century career opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Yes, Robert Miyashiro with the Education Mandated Cost Network. I want to address something that seemed like a minor point in the presentation from the administration on the mandates audit. The proposal from the governor is to have the reasonable reimbursement methodology based on audited cost claims, a seemingly reasonable request, but to point out this great reform, the reasonable reimbursement methodology, very similar to the mandate block grant, is already intended to smooth away the high costs, and we do not need to have the audit per se, because half of the mandate programs are not audited at all. The audits are not selected at random, and as an example, Los Angeles Unified School Districts have been audited 13 times out of 21 programs that are audited. 900 school district claims are never audited. So we would not suggest adopting that language. And finally, the process is not broken. The reasonable reimbursement methodology has worked effectively as a good reform. As recently as September, the Commission adopted an RRM for the pertussis mandate, and that was based on 370 claims where all outlier costs are already excluded.
Thank you. And if you have written information that goes into more detail on this, we'd love to see it.
I will
Thank
provide
you.
it.
Next speaker.
Jim Ashwanan, representing the California Agricultural Teachers Association, also a member of the Get Real Coalition. And obviously you've heard the statements about the importance of maintaining the CTE funding. And I'd just like to point out that this program has been extraordinarily popular with districts who understand the accountability that's built into it. When this money goes away, that accountability goes away. And with all due respect for the Department of Finance, this is bridge funding. Without similar accountability in the Ed Code, it becomes a bridge to nowhere. There's nothing there. And so if we don't maintain some control over the accountability and the funding linkage, and absent that, it won't exist. Wishing it will happen won't make it happen. And so we are strongly encouraging the $400 million be maintained over the short term until we can get language in the Ed Code that builds that accountability piece in that will disappear when this money declines. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Andrea Fox from the California Farm Bureau. I represent farmers and ranchers in the state of California. Of course, they are very, very much in strong support of career tech education courses. They realize practically, as they're out in the field, as they're working their farms, the need for hands-on education right along with a good academic education. And so we are in support of continuing and sustained funding for the career tech education programs.
Great. Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon. I'm Erin Evans representing KROP, the Association of Career and College Readiness Organizations. We have a couple of comments today regarding the CTE Incentive Grant Program. First, we'd like to express our appreciation for the support that the legislature and the governor has showed for this program. The grant program is finally stopping the dismantling of CTE programs that have been brought about by the implementation of LCFF and redirected funding during the years of recession. Secondly, we wanted to thank the committee for acknowledging the delay in funding that's been associated with the 2015-16 grant. And then finally, we ask you to also consider building on the CTE incentive grant by providing two things. First, even greater support for CTE. Clearly, there's a need, as evidenced by the applicants who have been willing to put up a match that even exceeds the appropriation. And secondly, an ongoing and stable funding source targeted at high quality, proven and existing programs. Thank you.
Thank you. That was exactly a minute. Very good. Next speaker.
Mr. Chair, members, Dawn Kepke with McHugh Kepke & Associates on behalf of the California Council for Adult Education and California Adult Education Administrators Association, both K-12-based adult ed providers. Quickly, we were very supportive of the Department of Finance Administration and legislature crafting the adult ed block grant. We think it's really helped make great strides in collaboration and coordination among the K-12 and community college providers, so very positive. A lot of positive work in providing pathways for students. And there are still some challenges with implementation of that. Those challenges largely focus around governance and funding decisions. But our folks are certainly earnestly participating in those discussions at the regional level. In terms of kind of additional comments, as was noted, $500 million between both systems is not sufficient to meet the need out there. So we'd strongly encourage the committee to consider looking at the adequacy of that funding, perhaps a COLA going forward. And then finally, just wanting to ensure that additional new adult ed and CTE related dollars provided for either system is aligned to the work that's being done under the adult ed block grant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
Dale Shimasaki with San Bernardino City Unified. I wanted to bring another issue to the attention of the committee related to adult education. They are no longer including adult education ADA in the lottery calculation. And as a result, for our school district, it represents a loss of $500,000. And we believe statewide, it represents a cut to adult education of $48 million. There's we don't like to see a cut happening in adult education given the block grant situation, but B, what this has created is an unequal funding system where the community colleges programs are receiving receiving lottery money while the same program in the adult education side aren't. So an ESL class in the community colleges is receiving about $168 more in funding from through the state, where the K-12 program is not. And we don't think this inequity should exist, and we think budget trailer bill language would help remedy the situation.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Good afternoon, Chair and Member. Ana Ferreira with the School Energy Coalition. We're made up of K-14 schools up and down the state. On the item of Proposition 39, we are fully supportive of the continued focus on K-14 schools. We do see projects moving out at a faster clip now that the guidelines have been adjusted, but we remain concerned about electricity rates and the impact that that may have on return on investment going forward. With regard to smaller schools, they may be waiting longer to collect the money over time because after this third year of funding, I believe we'll see a lot more schools moving forward with their projects. So I thank you for your time and appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate the comments. Last speaker.
Good afternoon, Leilani Aguinaldo Yee on behalf of the Los Angeles Unified School District. We'd just like to echo the previous comments made by Assemblywoman Lopez and others, asking for increased funding for adult education over time. At Los Angeles Unified, we continue to experience very lengthy wait lists for our adult education classes, and we believe that extra funding from the state is needed in order to alleviate the need for classes such as ESL, citizenship, and workforce development. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all of our speakers for your concise and very cogent comments. And with that, are there any other comments, Mr. Senator?
Orlock.
I know your name.
Mr. Chair, with regards to the discussion on mandates, I'd like to see a more aggressive payment plan than even the one that was proposed. And I'd like to see some kind of approach where we stop borrowing from these districts. That's just, we just pay them, no better, no worse, and then leave it at that. So I just wanted to mention that as a closing thought.
Thank you, Senator. And I see the finance is still here, so they have heard your comments. Appreciate it. If there are no other comments, no other business for the committee, we are adjourned.